Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing timeline for Dumper and Dumpee. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing timeline for Dumper and Dumpee. So if you've gone through a breakup, it's very natural to wonder how your experience is going to compare with your exes in the short, medium and longer term. In today's podcast, I compare the likely Dumper experience with the likely Dumpee experience over time. So let's get straight into this. And number one is Dumper decides to action a decision which works for them, but not for their now Dumpee. Now this might seem obvious, but we have to really break this down to fully understand how the future weeks, months and even years are likely to pan out. We have to break down what exactly is happening. So when two people are in a loving romantic relationship, they are both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for one another. Now, for various potential reasons, one or both people will start to lose attraction in this instance. And if and when somebody feels a very low level of attraction, when they hit the necessary low point, this is when they will decide that they want to end the relationship. They want to move on their own path. They no longer feel that they will be fulfilled in this current relationship. So when this person decides to take action, when they action this decision, this is when they are creating the breakup. This is when they become the Dumper and their partner, their now former partner, now becomes the Dumpee. So in this moment in time, the Dumper is getting what they want and the Dumpee is certainly not getting what they want, because in this instance, the Dumpee, the person who has just been dumped, did not want the relationship to end. So we have one person making a decision which works for them and getting what they want. But not only that, they are making a decision which negatively impacts somebody else. Somebody else is losing what they want. And this is where we see the power shift. The person who ends the relationship becomes the higher value individual. They become more powerful because they have made a decision which they wanted and impacts on somebody else in a way that they didn't want. So the Dumper becomes a higher value individual. And unfortunately, in this respect, the Dumpee becomes a lower value individual. Now, this doesn't mean, Dumpee, that you become a low value person within yourself. It just means within the relationship dynamic, you are the lower value individual because what you want has been taken away from you, and it doesn't matter what you say, whether you beg, plead, reason, this is not going to alter at this time. So when we are looking at the timeline for the Dumper and the Dumpee, we really have to emphasize the fact that at the time of the breakup, there has been a power shift. And when this power shift takes place, whether or not this was roughly the dynamic anyway, or whether it is a huge shift, the Dumpee is going to lose self-esteem. So the Dumper is feeling like, okay, this is my new journey, this is what I want, this is what I'm getting. They are going to get a self-esteem boost. They're probably going to feel bad about hurting their Dumpee. Most Dumpers do not want to hurt their Dumpee. Most Dumpers hate the fact that they are hurting somebody who they may still love in some regard. But they have to do it for them to feel fulfilled. They've got to do what is right for them at this time. And the Dumpee, unfortunately, is going to have the opposite of that. They're going to lose self-esteem. They're going to feel like, well, I'm totally out of control. I don't have any control over this situation. And I'm going to try to grab control in any way I can by doing things such as trying to persuade my ex, reaching out to them, trying to beg, plead, probably other behaviour traits which when you look at in the cold light of day are not beneficial to the Dumpee, but they're trying to grab at that power in any way they can. So when we look at the short-term timeline of the dumper and dumpee during a breakup, what we can see is the power changing, or even if it was roughly in some ways for a while, sometimes we see the power shifting over a period of time. Sometimes it's very sudden. But what we can say for certain is at the time of a breakup, we see a situation where the dumper starts to feel a higher self-esteem. They're doing what they want. They're living the life that they hope is going to give them more fulfillment. And the dumpee feels like their head is in a spin. Everything they thought they knew, they have now lost. Very confused, very hurt, and very low value. Unfortunately, this is how it looks in the short term after a breakup. But if you're a dumpee and you're listening to this, please don't feel fearful. Keep listening through today's podcast and you will see how things can evolve and how things can change. So although this isn't looking great for you right now, the future has not yet been written, and you are the author of your own life story, and you will have that power to move forward. And we will discuss this as we approach the latter parts of today's podcast. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of 3 in today's podcast about the timeline for dumper and dumpee. And point number 2 is dumper experiments on a new path, whilst dumpee lacks direction. So now we're moving into the medium term, the second point of 3 in today's podcast. And what we can see is that the dumper is now fully experimenting on this new path. And this is what I like to call the single honeymoon period, a period of time where a dumper lives the life that they believe they were missing out on whilst in a relationship. Now, this could be something as obvious as dating new people. And if you're a dumpee, you don't want to hear that. But it is something which may happen, but it doesn't mean that this is going to be anything long-term. In fact, it's very unlikely to find a long-term compatible partner so soon after a breakup. That is why we speak about rebound relationships and how connections soon after a breakup often fizzle out after a very short period of time. If you want to learn more about rebound relationships, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out the various podcasts I have done on rebound relationships. But for now, we're talking about the timeline, and the dumper is really starting to try to experiment with that life. And it might not be about dating new people. It might be spending more time with their friends, but they felt they couldn't before. It might be doing hobbies, looking at new interests. It might be going to parties, clubs, groups, all of these things which perhaps they felt they couldn't do within a relationship, they are now likely to experience. And this is the experimental time for a dumper after the breakup in the medium term. Now, the dumpee during this medium term is lacking direction. They're starting to feel like they don't know which way to turn. Okay, maybe they've dusted themselves down just a little. But in the medium term, the dumpee is still finding it hard to be motivated. They're still finding it hard to know which way to go for the best. They likely still want their ex back, but don't know what to do because they've tried begging, they've tried pleading, they've tried reasoning. None of this has likely worked. And this is where you've probably found my channel. If you're a dumpee, you're probably in this position right now. You're probably thinking, yes, this is my position. In fact, please let me know in the YouTube comments, whether you're a dumper or a dumpee, which stage are you at during this timeline explanation? Are you in the short term, the medium term we're speaking of right now, or shortly we'll be speaking about the longer term? The dumpee is looking for a way to get out of the doom and gloom that they are feeling, but they are lacking the motivation and the drive to do it. And this is what I would say you need to do if you're feeling this way. You've got to take all of those negative emotions you're feeling, all of the upset, all of the hurt, all of the anger, all of the frustration, try to mix it all together and use it as fuel to motivate you forward through self-improvement and living your life to the full. The last thing you want to do right now is date new people. The last thing you want to do right now is spend time with your friends doing things that you wish you were doing with your ex. But these are the things you need to be doing. There is nothing better to take your mind off your ex than dating somebody new. And as long as you're honest with them, as long as you speak to somebody new and say, look, I'm recently out of a breakup. I don't know what I'm looking for. Probably nothing serious. As long as you say that to somebody else and they are fine with it, then you can proceed as this. You don't have to be thinking, I can only date somebody if it's forever. I don't want anybody else. What's the point? Don't think of it like that. Think of it as spending time with somebody else or a group of people where you can really take your mind off your ex. This will ironically increase your chance of one day getting your ex back. And I speak about more than that on other podcasts, about what you can do to increase the chance of getting your ex back again. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out all of the other content. But generally speaking, in the medium term, the dumper is going through the single honeymoon period, and the dumpee is living a life where they're not really sure what they should be doing, but I'm encouraging you to push through this difficult time, live your life to the full, date new people, spend time with your friends, join new classes, groups and clubs. You don't want to do it, but it will be good for you. I promise you, in the long term, it will help you either get your ex back or find somebody even better. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about timeline for dumper and dumpee. And point number 3, when we're looking at the longer term, dumper hits crossroads as dumpee begins to move forward. So as I was saying earlier about the dumpee starting to move forward with the encouragement I've just been given, this is when it hits home. You know, whether you're listening to me, whether you decide to do the opposite of what I'm saying, eventually, dumpees, you will come to the point where you realise you have no choice but to move forward. And moving forward is best for you in so many ways. Even if you feel like you don't want to, even if you feel that you can't, you can do this. Speak with your friends, speak with your family, always speak with a local doctor if you feel depressed. You will get through this bleak tunnel. You will get through this difficult time. These negative feelings are temporary. You can get through this. You will get through this. And the dumpee in the longer term will realise that moving forward is their only option. And that dating new people, living their life to the full, isn't going to reduce the chance of getting their ex back. It's actually going to increase the chance. And we're going to delve into this right now when we look at the dumper situation in the long term. So the dumper hits a crossroads. And the crossroads is in essence how the dumpee has behaved and the situation the dumper finds them in. Now, there is no guaranteed way to get your ex back. Nothing can be guaranteed in life. But what we can see here is that if the dumpee does everything right, they increase the chance of one day hearing from their ex, the dumper, again. The crossroads for the dumper, from the dumpee's perspective, is if the dumpee has behaved in a positive way, if they've lived their life, if they haven't hassled their dumper, if they haven't caused their dumper to block them, if they haven't chased their dumper further and further away. Then when the dumper comes to this crossroads, they will look at the dumpee more favourably. And this could be a moment where they really reflect and think, you know what, I want to reach out to my ex. Now the crossroads happens because the dumper goes through the single honeymoon period, and all of a sudden, they start to realise that what was new is now old. What was exciting is now boring and mundane. So the life of going to clubs, groups, classes, trying to live this life they felt that they wanted to do, is not as easy, it's not as enjoyable all the time as they felt it would be. Just because a dumper feels that the relationship wasn't working for them, it doesn't mean that single life will be any easier. Single life is hard. Single life is challenging. And whilst the dumper is just coming to terms with this, the dumpee has lived this for a while. The dumpee is coming out the other side of this and realising, you know what, I can push forward. I can do my own thing. I can live my life because of me, not because of somebody else. Now, the dumper has probably dated a few people, realised we're not long-term compatible, starting to feel disheartened, starting to think, well, I had somebody who loved me and I dumped them. And now it's my birthday and I don't have anybody sending me a message where they truly love me, maybe some platonic friends and family, but nobody like I used to have. Maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't what I should have done. And if the dumpee has behaved appropriately, this is when the dumper will consider reaching out. If the dumpee has chased them away, if the dumpee has been blocked because of their behaviour, if the dumpee has acted in an angry, bitter and negative way, there is less chance that the dumper will think at this time, you know what, I'm going to reach out to the dumpee. There is less chance that the dumper will think, I want to reach out to my ex if they've been behaving badly. So this is where it's so important as a dumpee to behave in the appropriate way, live your life to the full, live a positive life, and if and when the dumper starts to really consider if they've made the right choice or not, this is when they will likely reach out. Now, of course, this doesn't always happen. There are instances we have to be honest and genuine where the dumper may find their true calling, they may move away, they may do something which means they don't come to this crossroads, but most dumpers do. The vast majority of dumpers will consider, have I made the right choice? My life isn't going the way I hoped. Should I have done this? If they believe that yes, this was the right choice, then as they move forward, eventually, as the years tick by, they will likely find a new long-term partner. That is the reality. But certainly within the first year, sometimes 2-3 years, this is unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. And this will increase the chance of a crossroads taking place, the dumper considering their decision and whether or not they miss their ex. Has their ex annoyed them since their breakup? You know, you can only miss somebody if you're no longer in their life. They need to miss you. As a dumpee, you must give them space and respect their decision. If you do this as a dumpee, you increase the chance of hearing from your ex again. And if you do, you enter the communication stage, which is very challenging, I'm not going to lie. And that is why lots of people use my audio coaching service to speak with me one-on-one about the communication stage in particular, as well as other hints, tips and advice of how to try to get their ex back, find a new partner, or just go through breakup recovery and live a positive life on your own journey. People ask me for these types of questions and more on my audio coaching service. Check out my website, www.dateme.tips, if you'd like to speak one-on-one, and we can try to help you on your journey towards happiness. With or without your ex, you will have a positive future. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent Bo, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent Bo got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.